According to Dave Meltzer on the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio earlier this week, Aleister Black is being forgotten about by WWE brass. In his words, with him noting that ever since Paul Heyman has been removed from the executive director of Monday Night Raw position back in June, the people in charge don't see anything in Aleister Black and have been unable to find a meaningful place for him on the card as a result. Meltzer also adds that all this has nothing to do with his wife Zelina Vega's recent firing from WWE a few weeks ago. Although, to be fair, I am absolutely positive that Vega's release hasn't exactly helped Black in the eyes and perception of the higher-ups over at the E, and his standing with the company on top of them not caring at all to begin with. I don't believe those two topics are entirely separate and exclusive, knowing WWE's notorious history of pettiness towards everybody and anybody. Aleister Black, with his mega talent, his aura, his serious character, his presence, and his natural charisma, has been projected by so many, as I'm sure you guys could agree, as being one of the key players in WWE for many years to come, in the past, in the present, and the future, I should say. This man was supposed to be world champion and mixing it up with the top guys in the WWE on a regular basis. You would think it would take many things to happen in order for all of that to fall through. Yet, here we are with what we're hearing on WWE's end. And honestly, it's really not that surprising, knowing never mind the recent history, but their entire history of just dropping the ball severely with talent that had unlimited potential to do so much for them.
Yeah, with that, it's not surprising that WWE has been doing this to not only to Aleister Black, but also to multiple stars past and even currently the present. Like, for example, Cesaro could have been a world champion years ago, but look what happened. For Aleister Black, he has two choices. Currently, right now, he hasn't been used advocately week to week, especially since he just let go of Zelina Vega almost 2 weeks ago. His only chance of relevancy is to either go back to NXT and be a top star down there like he was before, or leave and go to AEW. Those are literally his two choices. Because back when he was in NXT, he shined. He was a top star. He didn't main event takeovers, but he was still relevant. We all loved his character, his entrance, and everything else like that. And now he's being left in the shadows all because they have nothing for him, and they know that how good he is. The last time, I don't even remember the last time Aleister was even on a pay-per-view.
Exactly.
Like, that's
and
how.
Meanwhile, NXT, and sorry to cut you off there, but NXT champion main evented multiple takeovers. At least I'm positive that was the case.
No, not really.
If not that, then he was the focal point. He had like the top billing on the card consistently.
Okay, but what is the point of him going back to NXT if NXT really isn't hitting the same as it used to anymore? And then he's going to have to rebuild himself all the way from the bottom again. And on top of that, it's like, I mean, I kind of feel like he doesn't really have a spot in WWE overall. So it doesn't make sense for them to even keep him. So I feel like I hope this works in his favor where they're going to release him, because I would rather see him elsewhere than with the E.
And being used better.
Well, I mean, think about it. He could have been the next. I felt like he was this generation's Undertaker, and they fumbled the ball with that completely. And I think he could have been better than Undertaker. And I've been saying that for many podcasts.
Exactly. And that's not only that. When Paul Heyman at the time was being executive for Monday Night Raw, his goal was to make Aleister Black a top star. He was going to make Aleister at one point face Brock Lesnar and get him over, win or lose or whatever. He had huge plans for Aleister, as well as at the time, like this past May, Aleister Black was supposed to be the one to win Money in the Bank for the men's side, and they didn't do it. Like that's how good this dude is, and for the fact that Vince and his stupid people doesn't want to push Black is honestly crazy.
Honestly, they took him out when he could have been something in NXT. So that's why he can't go back to NXT, because Vince plucked him too soon from there and then brought him over to WWE because he wanted WWE to do better. You remember that awkward transition?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you pulled them just right on time.
Wait, did you say something?
I think that was Kenny.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Vince pulled him too early.
What?
You don't think Vince pulled him too early from NXT?
No. If you remember correctly, Aleister Black was there for like a shit.
2 years. 2 years, yeah.
So
I think the transition was very awkward.
It was, because they clearly had no plans for him at all. It was just
really
for the sake
awkward.
of like loading up the
he
talent
literally
pool there.
He didn't pull him because he was ready. He pulled him because he needed more viewings.
And also we also have to remember, at the time when they pulled Aleister and everybody else, that was around the time when Triple H was building for TakeOver New York during the middle of the build. And Triple H was livid when that happened. You got to remember that too.
We don't care about Triple H's feelings. We care about
I'm not talking. I'm talking about like when at the time when he got called up.
We care about why they fumbled his whole entire storyline.
Wait, so what are we really actually talking about here?
Oh my gosh. First you come in late, now you're whispering into people's ears. what we're saying, the question is, damn, what? I can't hear you. I feel like I'm deaf.
The fact that I was late. My bad. I'm sorry.
But why are you whispering? I feel like you're whispering.
Nah, so it's some audio quality on his end or something.
Okay. Anyway. No, I think the question is, what is the question?
There wasn't a particular question. It was just like
it's
on like the news that's
on Aleister Black not being utilized. And how
the fact that they have nothing planned for him.
Yeah, so they're coming up with ways that what they can plan for him, but I'm saying they fumbled the storyline in the E so many times that it's just kind of like he needs to just start over, but not with the E. I'm hoping this works to his advantage so they terminate his contract.
We shall see.
We shall.
Yep. And WWE, you fucked up again. Thanks a lot.
Are you surprised?
Nope, not at all.
I'm just saying this could have been the next Undertaker, but better.
I don't know about all that, man. That's like 30 years of greatness right there. Well, with a few exceptions.
What? I feel like his movesets are so much better, and then it's like he brings that same je ne sais quoi.
I mean, yeah, but my thing is this. Even if he's as like, okay, maybe like talent-wise, he's better than The Undertaker, right? But can he do it for 30 years? That's my thing.
But he could have, if you really invested in this guy and had Undertaker invest in this guy instead of Undertaker investing in all the wrong people that have nothing to do with him, you could have really made him something big.
We'll get to The Undertaker later, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we will. We're not done with him just yet.
Yeah.
And his storylines that make no sense.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right. And I can't, like I said, none of us are surprised by WWE's moves here or lack of doing anything with Aleister Black and their talent. So,
well, my thing is, why are you bringing these people back from the 90s and the early 2000s? I mean, yes, nostalgia, but they also have broken backs. They can't do the same thing as these young people.
Yeah, they haven't created any stars to begin with in the current age. So that's why they got to rely so much on the stars from the past.
Yeah, but it's like there's a way to just transition it instead of having like a 2000s rematch.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hopefully WWE does get the message eventually, but
They won't.
They will absolutely not.
They won't.
You know what it's like? It's like Vince is just bringing back his old friends and then just having them, it's like it's nepotism, I feel like, at this point with the E, where it's like, well, no one can do it as good as my buddy in the 80s. Well, let's have this rematch.
Yeah.
Like,
good way to put it.
It doesn't bode well right now.
Yep. Welcome to episode 46 of the Wrestling Hypothesis podcast, here for your Sunday, November 29th, 2020. Hope everyone had a great and safe Thanksgiving and stuffed their faces with plenty of turkey and stuffing, of course. Yep. Hope that happened. Of course, I am the ABA. Joining me as always this week is Richard.
Hello, everyone.
King Kenny.
Yep. In the building.
Yep.
Whispering.
I am not whispering, okay?
Yeah, hopefully his audio quality comes back a little bit more. And the first lady of the show, the lovely Tara, who you really can't see right now, but you can hear her lovely voice.
I can't have a beautiful voice when my face, I need to do my eyebrows. So, hello, beautiful people.
There you go. Business as usual, as everyone knows listening, this podcast is available to listen to on various different platforms out there, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and our own YouTube channel. If you're listening via Apple Podcasts, please be sure to give us a star rating on there, as well as some thoughts on what you think of our show. Any feedback is always welcome, good or bad. Always helps us learn there. And if you haven't done so already, you can check out any of our older episodes in the archives using any of the platforms that I mentioned just earlier, as well as visiting our own website, anchor.fm/wrestling-hypothesis. Well, continuing on with the rest of the show here, Survivor Series has come and gone this year, taking place just this past weekend. We haven't been able to get our thoughts out on the event earlier, but to just go over some quick thoughts, it was a good show. Not an amazing or great show in any way, at least in my opinion. You had plenty of mediocre content, like the men's Survivor Series elimination match that opened the show. That was pretty underwhelming. The fact you had Seth Rollins do nothing but get down on his knees and sacrifice himself for whatever reason to eat a bro kick from Sheamus.
That's
Don't know why that.
Or he said. The way you phrased that was so dirty.
Well, maybe it was intentional. Yeah, but I don't know why that had to happen. And now Rollins could go on his break on paternity leave, I guess, because Becky's due very soon. Everyone else in the match didn't do a whole lot. They get hit by one signature move from someone else, and they're already eliminated. You gotta love that. Team Raw won in a clean sweep, having all 5 members of their team remain in the match. Jey Uso was the final member of Team SmackDown to get eliminated, and that was in play a little later on in the evening, which we will get to in a little bit. Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn had a bad showing in their match, complete waste of everyone's time. The Women's Survivor Series elimination match wasn't all that great. Lana ended up being the sole survivor for Team Raw, which was no surprise to anyone.
I actually thought that this match was actually good until the ending. That's
right.
I'm with Kenny on that one, and then but it's not only that. To add to that, you literally had that chance to make Bianca shine, and they didn't do it.
They fucked up again.
They fucked up again.
Are you surprised?
No.
What I did when Lana won, I laughed. That's
honestly, I'm gonna say my thought at the end of Abba's storytelling. So go on.
Storytelling. I love that. Anyways, yeah, like I said, Lana being the sole survivor for her team, no surprise to anyone. Seeing her story of getting put through the announce table by Nia Jax every week, which I guess that's what they've been doing, has made her look like the underdog heading into the show. So it was whatever. And the Undertaker's retirement ceremony that ended the show was pretty disappointing, looking at the career we're capping off and commemorating on the show.
The video package was better.
Video package was the best thing about the whole thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
They had a whole host of legends and old WWE alumni from Taker's past head down to the ring. They aired that video package that we just mentioned, and Taker comes out in his signature dead man entrance. And once he gets into the ring, he says some words, The same words that we've heard him say plenty of times before in previous years, and
on all his farewells.
pretty much. And that was that.
Like, do you know how many times they said final farewell? And it's like next year. Welcome to his final farewell.
Yep. It's his retirement until it isn't.
Hey guys, I'm pretty sure this.
You said what?
I think Kenny froze.
Yeah, no, he always I feel like he always has a final farewell, so I feel like this was not as special as they wanted it to be. I didn't really care.
Exactly. This wasn't anything unique or special on WWE's part for Taker.
Oh, are you back? Say what you're gonna say, Kenny.
No, I said this is definitely the final farewell, though.
Definitely the final farewell.
Are you positive?
No.
Okay. Because I'm pretty sure someone's going to insult Taker next year, and then it's going to be like, final match.
Yeah.
That's exactly what will happen. Probably. We called it here. Now, what could have made this a whole lot better and more memorable the way it should have been is if he came out as Mark Calloway. No gimmicks, no characters, just himself, and he cuts a passionate promo looking back on his historic career. Because if there's one thing we know about Undertaker and the man behind the gimmick, he's a great talker. He knows how to tell a story.
But you know what though? But you know what? Then he can't have another final goodbye.
Right. Exactly.
He said final goodbye as Undertaker. That doesn't mean he said it as the American Badass. Thank you.
That's right. They could always recycle those old gimmicks of his from the past. Yeah, but maybe they decided to hold off on doing that for his Hall of Fame induction speech, for all we know. Because I don't think he'll be giving that in his dead man gimmick.
No.
Are you sure?
No, he can't.
No.
The dead man's already dead.
Well, he keeps coming back with a broken back, so he's less scary every time.
Yeah, that's true. But
you know what it is? It went from like scary, like he became like a scary man to like a character out of Scary Movie. Or you just can't help but laugh because he became
pretty frail though.
That's what I'm saying. It's not scary. It's just like, oh, like it's like a character from one of the Scary Movies, or it's like, this isn't scary. This is more like not comical, but it's like, oh, okay.
Remember those Scary Movies? Yeah. They were like more funnier than they were scary. Yeah, this is it. This is what it comes down to.
That's not a good look.
No, it isn't. Because WWE's not going for comedy in these kind of segments. So
are you sure he's not going for Are you sure? Maybe the joke is in a dark humor. Maybe we're looking at it in we're not looking at it in that light.
Can we just do everyone a favor and not talk about this? Because I feel like this thing is just it's dead.
It's sad.
Yeah. I don't know if that was a pun intended or not.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was all the negatives that I had about Survivor Series that I'm sure you guys agreed with. But you also had some good on the show. You had an abundance of good to great matches. Street Profits and the New Day had a great tag team match. What were you going to say?
No, I was like, you didn't get to the great part. I was like, were you just giving the bad and then the good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was going with here. Like I was saying, New Day and Street Profits had a great match. This is another example of WWE having great teams themselves scattered throughout. And we need to be seeing matches like this more often. Street Profits won the match, which was the right call. We also had Asuka and Sasha Banks in another great match on the show. We've seen this feud with the two over the summer, but we never had a bad match with them at all in the ring. So there wasn't a whole lot to complain about. And they had another solid showing to their history. Banks won with the roll-up finish that made sense to do, and not just for the sake of doing one like WWE so often relies on so heavily. So it made sense here. And of course, we had Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre. Universal Champion versus WWE Champion. McIntyre, of course, was fresh off winning his second world title in WWE after beating Randy Orton on the go-home show to this event. This match, as we all know, was a big focal point for us as a major topic of discussion on recent episodes of the show, praising the promo work and the potential this could have if they play it out with the legit rivalry. How would this play out as well? We got a great match with these two. There was a lot that went on here. The story of which Jey Uso letting Reigns down after falling to Team Raw earlier on in the show was in play here again, as he interfered on behalf of Reigns after he hit a low blow on Drew, and Jey hit a super kick, and Roman applied his guillotine choke, and Drew faints unconscious for Reigns to win this heavily anticipated champion versus champion match. Like I said, I enjoyed this match a lot, and from the looks of it on social media, a lot of people now want to see them go at it again for one of the world titles at WrestleMania properly.
And why wouldn't you, right? Like it was great. It was actually a great technical match they put forth. And I was talking to Ricardo about this earlier this week after the match. I told him that it was better than anything, because we were having a discussion about this on Extra, and we spoke about how, you know, this could potentially rival you know, The Rock and Stone Cold, at least, like, but from a wrestling standpoint, it was better than anything The Rock and Stone Cold have ever put together, and that just shows you the greatness of these two dynamic superstars. So I can't wait for whatever the future holds, man. It's definitely going to be great.
Yeah, I love the storytelling as far as Roman's part, and honestly, like, this is like the champion that I knew that Drew McIntyre could be. Like, this is the champion that, like, I felt like everyone was fiending to see, like, during the whole entire quarantine, and now it's like it's finally here. Like, yo, Drew McIntyre is a mother. Can I curse? I can't curse, right?
Girl, say what you gotta say.
Say what you gotta say.
Drew McIntyre is a motherfucking, like, monster. Like, seeing that dude come out, like, every time, I'm like, holy shit, this guy.
But hold up though, because I can remember when Drew McIntyre was champion early in the year. No one really gave a damn.
I did. I knew he was I knew, for me, I knew he had it in him, and I said we just gotta wait until, like, quarantine, like, this whole thing is over. But I just thought he.
Well, I mean, come on. Roman put that motherfucker on the map, man.
Nah, but honestly, I think that this was, like, kind of like what was needed, because not for nothing, there wasn't a lot of things going on that they could have gone off of from COVID. I mean, he kind of became champion at a shitty time, a really shitty time.
Come on, Tara, look at it this way. Roman fought Jey Uso, and that match was more relevant than anything Drew McIntyre put forth.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
This is like let's call it like we see it. Come on, man. We cannot be scared to call it like we see it. And what we saw, right, was Roman's greatness. Okay? This man literally put a guy that was supposed to be on the same level as him, right, which I believe he is, in Drew McIntyre. He put him literally on the map and said, hey, guys, this is my number 2. This is like, he sunned him, right, on national television on Friday Night SmackDown last week. And then in the match, right, Roman looked better. Like, I mean, come on, let's just call it like we see it. Let's just call it like we see it.
I thought it was like a tit for tat. Like, I like that. That's one thing that I kind of had to give props to WWE. It didn't undermine either of the champions. Like, the storytelling wise on that thing, and I think that's why, like, the show fell short on everything else, is because once WWE has one story, that's all they really focus on. That's all their only priority is. And I felt like that's where this showed, is on the storytelling on this part. It was really good. It didn't make Drew look weak. It didn't make Roman look weak. It just was like a tit for tat. And I thought it balanced it out pretty nicely. Like, it didn't undermine either of the other. And that's why you want to see another match. It's because they both looked pretty strong.
McIntyre had so much to gain from from fighting it out with Roman on the show and getting involved with him because he needed that extra to
he
be
needed that
put
rivalry.
to the next level.
I don't
like
think
that.
there wasn't a rivalry on Raw that you would want to see him with, because I felt like honestly everyone on both shows kind of just died down. Roman came in at a perfect time because let's be real, he came in after like the whole COVID situation. After this whole quarantine thing, like when things started to open up, that's when
he's gone away. Like COVID is still rampant. COVID is still here.
You said what?
He came at the right time in the midst of the COVID
I'm
pandemic.
talking about like and like he did like the whole switch over when people are actually have the time now to actually focus on wrestling. Because before, wrestling was kind of dead. We didn't really even have anything to talk about.
Well, I can remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But it was when Roman came back that wrestling was relevant again. It wasn't because wrestling was relevant, that's why Roman came back, right? So all the credit goes back to Roman making WWE wrestling relevant again. Because it was when he came back that we all eyes were on him.
No, I know, but what I am saying is he came during a decent time. It's not like he became champion. And then on top of that, he had a major shift in his character.
Honestly, real talk, this is maybe it's just me, right? But if Roman came back a month earlier, I think the same results would have happened in that we would care, right? The same way we did when he returned.
I personally don't think so. Only because like there was a time that everything was dead. In AEW, no one even cared about AEW or WWE. It was just kind of like, dude, like, come on, just let it go. I think it's like things started opening up again. And then it just became he just came back at like perfect timing. Because let's be real, he wasn't coming back due to his health as well. And then he also had a major character shift. It's not like he just came. If he came back as regular Roman, no one would have gave a shit.
No, I'm not saying he comes back as regular Roman. I'm saying he comes back.
I give him props. I give him props.
Paul Heyman a month earlier. It's the same reaction. It's the same reaction. Like
I
don't see
man.
any of this changing, man. Because it's he's just on a tier right now, man. Unlike no other. You just got to give it up. And anything that Drew did, right, before Roman arrived didn't matter. It didn't matter.
True.
It didn't matter. We never paid attention once to Drew, right, when he won his title. We never gave him the light of day.
But the thing
that was
is,
a damn
though,
shame.
like, even when he won his title, like it was kind of like the match wasn't that great. Like I felt like it was very sloppy on WWE.
It was a finisher fest. It was Brock Lesnar. That's why.
And that's what I'm saying. I personally think, I don't think that, like, honestly, like, as this match, I didn't think any competitor looked stronger than the other. I thought it was, like, perfectly told where they both looked pretty good.
Yo, time out. Abba, you brought up a very good point. It was against Brock Lesnar, right? Yep. But correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't Roman's matches way more entertaining with Brock Lesnar than Drew's match with Brock?
Yep.
Well, I could tell you that Roman and Brock had had pretty underwhelming matches. But if we're talking one or two matches that they had in 2015 at that WrestleMania main event, that was their best match. Right. So that easily exceeded what we saw this year with McIntyre.
Yes, exactly.
But then you kind of also have to put in circumstances. But you also have to put in
was good enough. Go ahead, Tom.
But at the same time, the circumstances weren't all there either, because that was like a month into quarantine, and you didn't have the audience, and there was just such a huge unpredictability factor in everything, not just wrestling.
Because when Drew McIntyre came back as the Scottish psychopath, when he first came to WWE there was hype around him. He was literally people wanted to see this guy like make it. It's just WWE's timing of everything kind of just stopped. And so I felt like that kind of diminished his actual championship career. I mean, Roman's momentum did kind of help it. Like I'll give you that. But I mean, I have no mistake. I think he's doing what we knew he could do as a champion. Like, this is the champion that we want to see. He legit was able to go tit for tat with Roman and still make it a match.
It wasn't until Roman came along, though.
Yeah, but
think about what Drew had to work with before Roman came along. He was fucking with Bobby Lashley, with Dolph Ziggler. It's like
and think about what Roman had to work with. Jey Uso.
They had the family factor, though. They had a family factor, though.
But the thing is, it's the drama factor. Like, that's what you're not understanding. It's literally the drama factor.
Oh yeah. Oh wait.
But here's the.
Y'all wanted to see Jey Uso mix it up with Roman at first, right? Hell no.
No.
Yeah, because I think
it was out of thin air, but at the same time, people were interested.
Yeah, but the thing is for Jey
angle to go for the Samoan dynasty part.
But here's the thing: Jey Uso as Roman Reigns' opponent, like that rivalry right there had way more interest and so much fan friction, way more than Drew McIntyre's opponents throughout the entire summer with only one person.
I never thought I would say this.
Like, seriously.
But Jey Uso had a better year, right? I believe, in my opinion, just by the optics. Because I know Randy won a championship, but Jey Uso had a better year than Randy Orton.
He did.
Well, actually, no. I would say that because, think about it. Right? They have but I like this whole entire, like, Samoan dynasty thing. Like, I think they went for a very good angle with this as far as the storytelling, and that's why it works. It works because of drama. It doesn't work because of anything else. It's just the drama. Everyone likes drama. That's why everyone tunes into Jerry Springer and Maury. That's what I said a few podcasts back. It's the drama. And that's why it works well. But it also works well. But it also works well because the Usos can talk on the mic, Roman can talk on the mic, and they can kind of create buzz around their whole entire storytelling. So that's why it works well. But however, I think this also showed the strengths on why Drew makes a good champion. Because he wasn't lazy with it. And he was still able.
Yeah. Nobody doubted Drew McIntyre's ability to carry the torch. Like,
Hey. No one doubted it, but there are levels to this.
I get what you're coming from, Kenny. I do. Like, Roman was the kick in the pants that McIntyre needed in terms of, like, just us caring about him like that, because his opponents that he was facing off with in the spring and summer months weren't up to snuff, with the exception of maybe Randy Orton.
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing about the opponents that Drew McIntyre was facing? Right, Randy Orton is one of the greatest we have ever seen in a wrestling ring. Can we all just admit that, right? We agree on that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. When you have that level of talent, right? Don't you think for 1 second, right, that Drew McIntyre facing Randy Orton should matter? Like that. That's all I'm saying. And
well, to be fair,
right? Hold up. The fact that we cared more about a guy, right? Future Hall of Famer in Jey Uso, because he's gonna be he's gonna go into the Hall of Fame as a tag team with his brother Jimmy, right?
Right.
But outside of that, there is absolutely no sample size to measure him as a main eventer. So from that standpoint alone, right? Drew mixing it up with a future Hall of Famer and a legend of this business in Randy Orton, right? And we never cared once about that. At least not as much as we should. But Roman faces Jey Uso, right? I'm just comparing the level of talent here, and I'm saying if Roman faced Randy Orton, we would have given even more shit. We would have cared even way more, and that's my huge issue with this. With Drew, right?
Actually, I'm going to be very real. On my end,
yeah.
I mean, as great as Randy Orton is, I just don't care anymore about him. Like, he's not as hot as, his name isn't as hot as it used to be.
You're right.
Like, it's just too overdone. And for me, it's not, it doesn't ring the same. Like, it's just recycled. You know what I mean? Like, you just know you're just going to see something with him. And he's not even like a championship holder. He's just like an opponent. And it's kind of like, I don't care to see this anymore. Like, I want something more fresh.
And I'll tell you why.
That's what it is with Roman. It's and Jay. It's fresh. It's not something you've seen before. Like, it's just fresh. Like, you're used to seeing the Usos winning championships and stuff like that over and over and over again in the tag team divisions. But now it's like you're seeing them bitched out.
And I'll tell you why. Because
you're used to seeing Roman. Sorry, I'm saying, like, you're used to seeing Roman as like as a good guy, and now you're seeing him as an asshole, and it works. Like, the whole Samoan dynasty storytelling works in this actor because it's fresh. It's something you haven't seen in a while, and it just works. I don't think it has anything to do with Drew's abilities. I just think it has to do with the cards he was dealt, and it was just at a shitty time that they literally, I think it was just timing was really bad. If they made him champion like last year, I think he would have like done phenomenal, because he had that buzz around him when he first came in as a Scottish psychopath. And then he had that drama with freaking Dolph Ziggler and all that other stuff. People were tuned in because people wanted to see Drew win. And they didn't care if he was a bad guy. But WWE killed it when they waited for as long as they did, because of whatever issues they had with Brock.
Right. But, and I definitely agree with your point on Drew being hotter at one point last year, 2 years ago, when he first came back to the main roster than this year. But at the same time, there's another big factor of why Randy Orton isn't as hot as he once was, because he already hit his peak earlier this year with the Edge rivalry heading into WrestleMania.
Yeah, that
remember
killed
how
it too.
That, like, nothing was going to touch that, even with McIntyre. Like, they can try, but it wasn't going to reach that ceiling.
I'm a diehard Edge fan, like a diehard, right?
Oh,
it's
we
like
know.
my favorite wrestler ever. Like, that is on my bucket list. But in all honesty, I felt like that was like a complete like buzz killer. Like, those matches, those repetitive matches, I did not care one bit. And I think that just killed Randy's momentum, because it's like, you know, he's doing old, he's doing new, but none of it worked. Like, none of it coincided with anything. This is like actually the first time that they're telling a consistent storyline that you can tell they actually put some thought into, as opposed to just making up something altogether randomly and trying to make it fit.
Yeah, there you go. Moving on here, guys. Chris Jericho was on Conan's Keeping It 100 talk show. Conan is, of course, a very close friend of Jericho. On there, Jericho shared some sentiments towards AEW's product, believing that while they have been doing a lot of good content and getting it out there for the fans, it hasn't always been perfect on their end. He notes the whole unscripted nature that Dynamite has, which, while it is a great thing for talent to have independence and creative freedom, it doesn't always lead to results that make sense with one another. He was not a fit. For example, he was not a fan of the buildup with MJF in one aspect of it, and their match at Full Gear, and the storyline of will MJF join the Inner Circle, coinciding with the separate storyline later on, like sometime later on in the show, of Will Hobbs being pursued to join Taz and his faction, which he did eventually, as we see on Dynamite nowadays. But Jericho wasn't big of having two near identical stories being told at the exact same time of will they, won't they join this particular faction, which honestly does make sense why he wouldn't be a big fan of that. You don't want to see two of the same thing happening at the same time on television. So he was right about that. Adding further, he also gets on the usage of comedy in wrestling today, noting that AEW has been killing it on their part with the comedy segments, adding that they don't try too hard with trying to be funny into the audience, which is something WWE, which he points out, has big trouble with when doing the exact same thing. Specifically, he says that WWE comedy is, excuse my language, dick and fart jokes. That's why a lot of it doesn't work well. Don't try to be funny, because when you try to be funny, it's never funny. And that's been my attitude with all these segments. End quote. He is right on the money with these comments towards comedy usage in the WWE. 95% of the time that they try to make comedy segments nowadays flops miserably, like a fish out of water. Nothing but cringe and complete disgust when watching them attempt to pull off the comedy right, because it doesn't go over well.
I really don't have much to say on this. Just
Same.
because it's WWE creative, man. Like but I think Jericho brought up a very good point about AEW and what they're trying to do on their end. And it just I think it just goes to show you the path that AEW tries to take, right? And you know, I can't imagine a wrestler, a WWE employee, right? Because they are employees, not fucking independent contractors, right? I can't imagine a WWE employee coming out and criticizing their product like Jericho did AEW's product. And they'll still be employed by the end of the day. Like, I can't see that happening. Just because everyone right now is walking on eggshells, you know? It's literally, you know, you either are for or against. You know, there's no constructive criticism. There is no, you know, trying to make our product better because we know how to make our product better. It's our way or no way at all, right? So that seems to be the mentality they have on their end, at least in terms of, you know, Vince and the whole and the whole chorus. But you can see the difference between a company that's well run, right, and a top star criticizing their product and trying to make it better, right, and then the WWE firing one of their employees because, you know, she thinks that they should be unionized. I don't know, man. It's just I just think it's very interesting to point that out.
I personally don't care about this topic.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care either. Like, back then, comedy worked for WWE for some people, and then now in the year 2020, it's like nobody cares anymore. Like nobody cares. The only time they will care if it's done right. But other than that, like, there's nothing really else left to say here about this.
Yeah, it worked 15, 20 years ago in the Attitude Era because they weren't trying too hard.
Yeah, Attitude Era with Discretion Era, it worked. But like,
do you know why it worked? Okay, let me tell you why it worked back then. It worked back then because people saw WWE more as a show than an actual sport. Nowadays, people look for it for the sport value. So that's why you having the talent in ring is a little bit more important than whatever I mean, yes, Mike is like a good amount of it, but it's more so in ring ability as opposed to what is said. And I feel like in that aspect, it's just not as relevant. If a guy tells me a funny joke on WWE, it's not as important to me. I don't care.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the sentiment that I share with you guys. That I agree with on your guys' end.
But yeah, what is up with those dick jokes? Because if you really think about it, like, they always think kicking someone in the balls is like the most funniest thing. And I've noticed, like, with every match, I mean, yes, I know that Roman did it, but it's like in every like match, even with like AJ Styles and Undertaker. Remember that they just kept kicking people in the balls. I'm like, this isn't funny.
Vince, it's funny the one man only, Vince McMahon, because I've read before, it's like a few years ago, that he actually laughs hysterically at those kind of segments when they do spots like that. Oh my God, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. What goes on behind the scenes. So there you go. Continuing on, The Undertaker was on Stone Cold Steve Austin's Broken Skull Sessions on the WWE Network for the second time in 1 year, making his first appearance on the show after Survivor Series last year. He was plain old Mark Calloway, A down-to-earth person that revealed so much about what went on behind the scenes of the Undertaker gimmick, breaking down some of his biggest rivalries over the decades, and revealing a host of backstage stories to share. He did that again earlier this week on Austin's show, and he had more to say about the WWE and some of its decisions regarding the booking over the years, chief among them being his WrestleMania streak and how it has ended at the hands of Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30 in 2014. He went on to say that he believes that Lesnar should not have beaten the streak at all, and that eventually it should have been Roman Reigns.
Are you done introducing this topic, or?
I mean, like, yeah, you can go ahead, man. Thoughts? Okay. What do we think about that? Roman Reigns?
So I strongly disagree with that. Number one being the fact that there's no way in hell at that point that we would believe that Roman would end the streak. Like the thought of him, because he was already, hated by most of the fans, that if he had broken the streak, riots would have ensued in downtown Brooklyn. I think it was in New Orleans.
New Orleans,
so,
yeah.
So I don't know why the fuck I thought. What the hell?
But anyway, big wrestling city over there. So there you go.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, it would have ensued in New Orleans. So I don't think Roman should have been, because at that point, right? If you were the guy that broke the streak, would it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense to be a heel rather than a face? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that point, we were all clamoring for Roman to be a heel, but they just won't do it, right? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
So
vividly.
So for me, right. So for me, it doesn't make sense to have a face break the streak and then people turn on him, and hate him forever. So I actually think, if it was this version of Roman today, right? And if the streak was still, unbeaten, I think then, okay, you can say, yeah, this version, like if this version of Roman, or if this version of Roman was, fighting back then, and they actually turned him heel and they actually came to the senses, then yes, he should definitely be the one to break the streak.
I don't think it was his time to be this great thing. Like it was not his time at all. Like they were trying to shove him down as like this amazing face, and it just was not working. And I think the Undertaker just sees like the momentum that he has now, but I just think that Roman was still kind of polishing himself back then. Yeah. If you really think about it, he was still working his way up. He couldn't even like put up a great match with John Cena. That was like back when John Cena literally violated his whole entire career.
Yeah, that was ugly.
Like that was not it. He was not the same seasoned. He was not the same seasoned man as he is now. And on top of that, like I'm pretty sure he worked with Paul Heyman or whatever to kind of like I guess smooth over whatever transgressions he had, like as like helping him talk on the mic and stuff like that. I think Paul Heyman probably trained him a little bit. And let's be real, I don't think that would have been available back then because Paul Heyman was still with Brock. So
well, to be fair, Paul Heyman always had always loved Roman Reigns.
No. I'm not saying that, but as far as ability, like Paul Heyman would not have been available to really be with Roman full on, like how he is now. So it would not have made sense at all.
Right, because he's more hands-on with him now than he was 5-6 years ago.
Like I feel like right now it works because you're excited because of what Paul Heyman brings and what he created with Roman Reigns. Because let's be real, Roman Reigns, what he is now, is created around Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman creatively, I'm pretty sure he like created what Roman is right now. And I'm pretty sure the whole Samoan dynasty is Paul Heyman's storytelling.
It sure is selling Vince, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Damn right is not Vince.
I think it kind of bodes well though, because Paul Heyman, I mean, Vince McMahon has a very soft spot for like the Samoans. Like that Samoan family, like he has a very soft spot for them. Like Rikishi, you got Umaga, you got like The Rock, like everyone in that family, like he has a great respect for him. Like Nia Jax, that's why Nia Jax is pushed so heavily. Even though she sucks, he just loves that family. So, regardless, like anyone in that family was going to get a push.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true. But to go back to the topic of this question, did Undertaker specifically say though that if Roman was the one to beat the streak, it should have happened at WrestleMania 30 in 2014? That it couldn't have just happened years down the line, and Taker would have still had the streak intact?
It could not have happened now because he's too old. I'm
Right.
sorry, it doesn't bring the same factor that it did. Like that's why the Goldberg and Undertaker match was so funny, because it was these two old men it was like going to a senior home and watching these two old men just battling it in the cafeteria. That's what it's like, going to a nursing home and just picking out two seniors and just having them wrestle. It just didn't look, their backs were broken. They were like, I felt like at significant amount of times it worked out because they're both giving each other space. And it's not the same je ne sais quoi. Like, it just does not work. It does not work. Unless Roman is literally maybe just, it's a squash match. It's still not, there's no point, honestly. There really is no point unless it's making Roman look more of a heel and he's squashing Undertaker. To me, his abilities are not there anymore.
Yeah, his ability was gone just completely after that match with Lesnar. Well, before that match with Lesnar, because I think probably his last great WrestleMania match was like with CM Punk the year before or something.
But honestly, Loki, it wasn't even that great to the point of where he said, "Oh yeah, that's definitely the Undertaker." I think the last time he was recognizable was the first match with Triple H. The second one, right? Shawn made that match, even better than what it really supposed to be. Like when you look back on it now, it was more like a triple threat match because Shawn was like the third participant, right? Even though he was supposed to be the special guest referee, but like his first match, right, with Triple H on his back-to-back series with him, I think that was the last time we saw the Undertaker as the Undertaker,
right?
And then everyone else after that was like it was like a shell of himself. He fell off a cliff heavily. But yeah, like it wouldn't have made sense because the thing is this, man, like you have to account for what was going on at that time, right? Because when he says it was Roman that's supposed to beat him, well, you brought up a very great point about when is Roman supposed to fight him? If you're saying Roman's supposed to fight him 2 years after the match, at least 2 years after WrestleMania 30, it wouldn't have made any sense because Taker would have been crusty and too old to compete anyway, right? Yeah. So you kind of have to put that.
That's right. Can you speak your truth on the Undertaker?
So you kind of have to put that that scenario to the test and say, hey, listen, it's about the same time. It has to be around the same time. So replace Brock Lesnar with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 30 and see where that gets you. Because at that point, the WWE, they were trying to book Roman as the next best thing, right? So if you're trying to book Roman as the next best thing, why would you do something like that, as drastic as that, as to beat Brock, but still maintain, right, that level of face that you've created in him?
Let's be real, he didn't have a great moveset back then either. Can you imagine like him just with that was when like the Superman punch was like the biggest thing to them,
right?
And like I'm just saying, I think he wanted the product that is Roman now and the hype that is Roman now to be the person to take him down, but he is just not he was not that person back then. And
he was far from the
but
person
no,
we see today.
I really hope, like, I really hope Undertaker doesn't request a one last match with this Roman. I really hope he doesn't do that. Like, I would hate to see that match.
All this talk about Roman and The Rock, Roman and Drew for WrestleMania, all these potential matches, and we end up getting fucking Undertaker. Oh my God. I could so see it. I could so see it.
Yep, I can see
Typical
it.
Vince.
Yeah, you want to throw up? Yeah, just think about that match.
Two legends, Roman and Taker. Oh my God, imagine, you know, it'll be the funniest thing if they were to like have Roman go against Randy and then take the title of Legend Killer and then go down to Undertaker as the final match.
That's the final boss.
Oh, jeez.
That would be horrible. And it would be like another, like, it'll be like AJ versus Taker.
And you know what's so funny about all this? It's highly possible that it happens.
Oh God, yeah.
It's highly possible that this happens.
You know what else is highly possible? You know what else is highly possible for Roman at WrestleMania next year? Him and Goldberg.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah.
You know why? Because we didn't get that match at WrestleMania this year.
Right.
That's exactly why they might actually do it.
Please let's not talk about this old fart. Please don't.
Oh my gosh, Goldberg is probably gonna kill him.
Please don't.
He almost killed Undertaker.
Yep.
Like, Undertaker's face was so pissed when he fucking did that.
Oh man.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
honestly, like, Undertaker would be better than Goldberg in that situation because at least Roman can live a fulfilled career, you know, instead of some weird, messed up, incident.
You know, Goldberg shouldn't be doing that jackknife, man. Like he should not be doing that, man.
First of all, he shouldn't be self-concussing himself either.
Whatever the move is that he, picks up his opponent and just like drops him.
Jackhammer.
But no, but still, like, he shouldn't self-concuss himself by hitting his head against the wall.
Oh man. But yeah, jackhammer, yeah, like he shouldn't be doing that anymore, man. Like
he shouldn't self-concuss himself either.
Well,
because remember he was like literally concussed during that whole entire match because he hit his head too hard on like freaking cement.
Baby steps though, people. Baby steps before we ask for too much from Goldberg and Taker.
Like, can you imagine Roman's greatest match is going to be him and Drew, and then everything else is just like, all right, here are all the matches that we wanted for you during COVID. Here are all the rematches that you should have from your face career.
It's going to be very interesting, man. But hey, listen. Look, if he put on a great match, a great sequence, and a great rivalry with Jey Uso, okay. All right.
But think about it. It had the storytelling.
You can do it with anybody, man. I'm telling you.
It had the storytelling, and Jey Uso can talk on the mic as much as you want to say like he's not that great. He could at least talk on the mic. You got to get
he's shown us some sparks here and there with him and his brother.
I think Jey Uso got the complete package, man.
I think, like, honestly, like, that's why their feuds, like, they made like the tag team division kind of like a little bit more interesting to watch because they can at least talk on the mic.
A little.
No, I'm saying, like, there was a feud with the New Day when it first happened that it made you interested more in the tag team division.
That's what I'm saying. But that feud with the New Day made them the best tag team in the world at that point in time. You know? I mean, you can argue like it was the Bucks, it was the Lucha, but no, it was the Usos at one point. Okay. All right, they were the best tag team in the world at that point. Okay, they just didn't make the whole tag team division. They made the whole tag team division in the world better because they were, they elevated their level of play. So, like, the Uso Penitentiary one, man, like when they came out with the swag, with the, when they dropped that face paint shit, yeah, that was the Uso that put the whole world on notice. So I mean, and we're getting that Jey Uso. Hopefully, Jimmy comes back soon, man. Isn't he?
Jimmy's coming back after TLC.
Okay.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like it kind of, you can say like you could say at the end of the day that you know, Jimmy or Jay is like mid-tier, but at the end of the day, like they could talk on the mic.
Yeah, of course. They've shown us that over the years with their promos against the New Day and those kind of teams.
I don't like, that's why I think the feud that helped create Roman. And I'm saying like I think he has the potential, but all I'm saying is that he's there. Like Roman's there, but I don't like it's going to die down if you put him with someone who can't carry themselves.
I mean, he's feuding with Kevin Owens from the looks of it. So, I mean, Kevin Owens, we know he's a jack of all trades in many things. So, that shouldn't be a problem. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Roman is in the perfect brand now, you know, and definitely, you know, Taker definitely fell into a prisoner of the moment. He had a prisoner of the moment thing going on because, yeah, I definitely think this version of Roman had a lot to do with why he said it should have been Roman rather than, you know, Brock. But at that time, Brock was the best possible person they had to beat The Undertaker. No one else.
Yeah, pretty much. I got nothing to say on that. Brock was pretty much above and all else on the roster in 2014. Nobody else was a better choice. And with that, we're going to end it there for this week. Hope you all enjoyed episode 46 of Wrestling Hypothesis. Be sure to follow us on Facebook or Instagram for any updates on the show, as well as on news reports on wrestling that you can find out through us. Not guaranteed, but hopefully we will probably be back sometime in the week next week for another edition of Wrestling Hypothesis Extra. That'll be episode 16, I believe it is. So Until then, yeah. Thank you, Kenny, for that. So until then, have a good one, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Later.